Hi all, I'm here with you again from Quad 8s. I have been debating about doing more videos just because I'm actually training people to be my competition if you're watching this. But I did decide to go ahead and do another video on financing. So this is financing investment properties specifically. And we'll talk about the different types of the different types of financing that you can use and maybe some pros and cons of each just so you're familiar with some of the terms. So the first one is the bank. I don't know why I put this first because it's it's my least favorite. I'll just call the bank kind of like a superstore of loans. They do all kinds of loans. They do auto loans, home loans, boat loans, checking, savings, all that stuff. So it's kind of like if you were to go to Walmart and pick up your milk, your bread, and by the way, while you're there, you'll grab a dining set. Not that I'm judging. If you want to do that, that's awesome. But they just don't really specialize in loans. So that's not typically, or in home loans anyway, that's not typically a way that I would go. I'm not going to recommend it, but it is their bank, so you could do that. The next one is the lender. These people specialize, we'll put mortgage lender here. They specialize in mortgages and they have all kinds of different loan programs that they can get you for financing on a house. Some of them are government backed and they have very specific requirements for the home and for you. So it might be FHA or VA where they would require the home to not have any peeling paint, not have any tripping hazards, that kind of thing. So if you're buying a flip property, oftentimes they won't go FHA or VA. Sometimes they'll go conventional. Sometimes that's a possibility. If you're buying a home to rent as a rental, then maybe it'll go FHA or VA, but typically they have requirements for you as well. So as far as financing is concerned, how long have you been in your business, what's your income like, that kind of thing. If you were to buy something and hold it, like maybe you're going to live in it for a couple years and fix it up as you go, then a mortgage lender might be a good way to go for an investment. Or if you're going to buy a rental, try to maybe get a conventional loan and do things that way. So mortgage lenders are your friend. They can get you a low down payment, they can get you low interest. The requirements are, I guess, more difficult, so we'll say harsher requirements. But for certain type loans, those are pretty good. So the next one is cash. Everybody loves cash. So I hear a lot of people say, well, we'll just make a cash offer on this house. Believe it or not, there are some downsides to using cash on things that you buy. And that may sound strange, but there are. There are also some really positive things about it. One of the positive things is if you're buying bank-owned property or auction property, or if there are multiple offers that you're up against, maybe there are 5 offers and you call the agent and they say, hey, 5 offers came in last night, just want you to know, then think about it. Mr. Seller who's trying to get rid of his house, is he's going to go with the guy who needs to get a loan and get qualified for a loan, or is he going to go with you with your cash? So cash can be a very good bargaining chip to have. It also creates a faster closing. You don't have to wait for the 30 days or the 45 days that it would take the bank. So I'm going to put fast close, good for auctions, auctions, maybe competitive properties. So anything that you are up against other buyers, it makes you look better. The reasons not to use cash are because, let's say you have $500,000 and you pay $300,000 cash for a house. How much do you have left? $200,000. So you could do maybe one more deal and then all of your cash is tied up in those properties. So that can be kind of a headache. I mean, if you can finance it through private money, which we're going to talk about in a minute. That's actually a better way to go sometimes. Sometimes what you can do is for these competitive properties, you can snap them up with cash and then you can refinance them after you purchase. So if you do have a wad of cash, drop it on the place, turn around and refinance it, and now your money is back in your hand. The other thing about cash is, especially if you're a new investor, which I'm assuming you are, and that's why you're watching this, or maybe you just want to get a little bit more insight. And if you're new, you want to be able to run the purchase by somebody. If you're out there making an offer on something and you're like, I'll probably make money in the end, it's always a good idea to have somebody look it over. So if you're paying cash and you're not going through private or some other way, then a lot of times you'll miss something, whereas a lender would be able to see that and call it out. So sometimes if you are going to go cash, it might be a good idea to have a mentor or some kind of specialist in the field, a realtor or some other kind of person who can take you through it and tell you a little bit about your deal and why it would or might not work. There are all kinds of things that people don't think of when they first start out. And so cash is always a good option, but depending on the situation, it's not always the best option. Then there's the owner carry, also known as owner finance, carry back. There are a lot of terms that people use for this type of financing. So the owner carry is where the seller of the property, the actual person who owns the property, is going to give you a loan on it. So it is in your name, it goes into your name at title, but they are the person who has the loan. So they have a lien against it in that amount. So let's say they're asking 180 for the property and you come in and say, well, I'll pay 180, but only if you'll carry it. Usually one thing about an owner carry is they're going to want 20% down. And any seller who knows anything about carrying a loan will ask for at least 15-20% down. They're not going to give over their property to somebody and hope that they don't destroy it and hope that they don't have to come and foreclose it on it for much less if they know what they're doing. So with an owner carry, you're going to pay 20% down. The terms on it are a little bit higher than what a mortgage lender would require. So mortgage lender might say 4 or 5%. Owner carry might say 7 or 8%. They usually will ask for a little bit more interest. So there are some benefits to an owner carry, though. It's a little more off the grid. Some people like to do it because it's a little more hidden. They don't necessarily report to the credit unions, and therefore it doesn't always show up on your credit that you have this large outstanding loan. So if you were to go get a boat or something, they wouldn't go, oh, but you have. Sometimes. Anything that I say is I would check with your state laws, local laws, and sometimes a real estate attorney. This is just my opinion or things that I've learned. Some of it is, I try to be as factual as I can, but you always want to double check everything just in case. But yeah, an owner carry can benefit you. Sometimes it can even benefit the owner because maybe they're paying, well, actually with an owner carry, they can't have a loan on it, but maybe when they had the loan on it, they were paying 3%. Now they're charging you 7%. They're actually making a little bit of money every month, and they do have to own the property free and clear. So in order to do a real owner carry, they cannot have a mortgage on it. So if you ask somebody if they'll do an owner carry and they say, I have a loan on it, don't argue with them unless you can pay off their loan. If they only owe $20,000 and you can put $40,000 down, then by all means go through with that. But they do have to own it because in order for them to be the bank, they can't also be paying the bank. So if that makes sense, they have to own it free and clear. So owner carries can be helpful in a lot of situations. The last one, and probably most important in my book that we're going to talk about, is private. So a private lender could actually be anybody. I mean, it could be your dad. It couldn't be my dad. He's broke. But anyway, hi, Dad. I love you. Private could mean anybody that has a lot of money. So let's say you go to Uncle Joe and you say, I really need this loan. I'm going to buy this house. Uncle Joe's going to probably want to know a little bit about the house. Please, by all means, if you're first starting out, don't use a relative or family member. I would hate to see something go really wrong and have you say, yeah, but I could get private money anywhere. Try your hand at it a few times first. Make sure you really know what you're doing investing, that you're really finding a good property, and that you're going to be able to give that person a good return on their money, on their investment, because if they're smart, they're going to ask you for proof that it's a good deal. But better than going to Uncle Joe would be going to, we'll call him Joe Millionaire. So he's the guy who has probably done a ton of real estate investments. He maybe has decided he's not going to actually go in and pull up pea carpets and replace things anymore. He wants to become the lender. So he's just your average guy, or it could be an LLC. It could be 2 or 3 people in an LLC. It's not a bank. It's just a person who wants to use their money for other people to invest in a property. And what Joe Millionaire usually looks at is they want to make sure that you have a good deal. So where the bank will look at more at you and what you qualify for, they'll look more at your credit, they'll look more at work history, all of that stuff. A lot of times the private lenders aren't going to look at all that stuff. They don't really care if you have 5 or 10 properties out there and aren't making enough money at your 9-to-5 job to pay all those mortgages. They're looking at the property, because what happens is if you don't follow through, then they just foreclose and now they own this great deal, and they don't really care that much about you. Sorry, but they don't worry that much what happens to you at the end. So make sure that you have a good property. The nice thing about Joe Millionaire is he's going to review your deals. He's going to look at them and say, is there money here or is there not? Because he's obviously not going to take something that he can't turn around and sell and make a good deal from. So that's the bonus about that, is going to private. They're going to really go over the numbers. They're going to see if it's a valuable property. If they wouldn't do it, I mean, if you know, then they're certainly not going to give you the go ahead to do it and then loan their money out to you. So this guy's got a lot of money sitting in the bank. You go to him, you show him your deal. He reviews it. He says, this is great. No, you need to come down on price, whatever it is that he says. Typically, they're going to charge a very large interest rate and sometimes a lot of points. So they might charge, 12 or 14%. It really depends on what you can get, but they'll charge a big interest rate because they want to make money on the deal. The lenders are going to make money on it long term, but this guy you're only going to have it for 6 months. These are for the deals that you want to flip, by the way. You're not going to use necessarily private money in a rental or something like that. So this is a deal that you want to flip. So 12 to 14%, they'll ask for a percentage down, maybe 5% down to close. So you need to consider all of those fees when you're buying something. You're going to have to pay that guy back. Sometimes it's not going to be that much. I talked to somebody recently who would do about 3.5% down. And then they charge a percentage, and they usually want these deals closed within about 6 months. So this is if you're going to go in and rip up carpet and replace everything, and you're going to get a contractor and you're going to get it done, because if not, they're going to charge an enormous fee at the end. But Joe Millionaire is the guy that you want to find for the fix and flip deals, because even if you have a lot of cash, you can do more deals this way using this guy. I'm going to tell you quite honestly that this is the hardest part actually about, it's actually easier sometimes to find a flip property than to find him. And I have had some deals that I've had that were amazing. I would have made a lot of cash on them, and I didn't have a private lender. So don't cry for me. I sold the I did an assignment, and we'll talk about assignments in another video, and I ended up making money on it anyway, not as much as I would have if I had found the private lender that I needed, or at least found them in time. So the way to find this guy, these people are easy to find. Mortgage lender's easy to find. Cash, if you have it, no worries. Owner carry's kind of tricky to find because in a market like this, especially if they're selling a property that is a really good deal, why would they want to own or carry it? That thing's going to go, it's going to be listed and it's going to go like that. So sometimes owner carries are for sale by owners. They don't get a lot of traffic because they didn't list it on the MLS, and it'll just kind of be sitting there for a long time. Sometimes that's a good time to do an owner carry. Plus, the other thing about it is since they have to own it free and clear, not very many people do. A lot of people want to sell and get on to the next property, so they don't want to carry that for you. So this guy is sometimes really hard to find too. Where are you going to find an owner carry property? Some of them are listed that way as owner carry, but then they're usually going to want to go with bank financed if they can, or cash or whatever. So the really, really good deals usually go cash or Joe Millionaire. The other thing about the mortgage lender is if you're bidding on an auction property and you say, I'm going to go conventional, a lot of times those banks, those auction sellers, they're going to go, why would we do this when we could get cash? And private money is pretty much cash. I mean, it's considered cash for the most part. If you say, I've got a private loan, they know that Joe Millionaire has the cash to close the deal. They'll want to double check that, but they'll see that you've got the money to do it. So how do you find this guy? That's the really hard part, and I'm still kind of working on that a little bit because I have a couple now. I mean, it has taken some time, but what I recommend is to excuse me, find other people who are also investing. So if you see signs along the road that say we buy houses cash, you know, a lot of times there'll be a sign that says 4-bed, 2-bath, call this number, great deal. And it really isn't. It's what they teach you in some of these classes, which I know because I have paid for some of these classes and gone to them, to put up those signs, and then it gets people's attention. Those people are investors. If you can meet one of them, talk with one of them, and if they're willing, most people are not willing. I'm kind of an exception to that rule to give away any kind of inside secrets. So, but if you can, in your area, don't ever go, I don't recommend going outside of your area just because you can get all kinds of weird people pretending they're going to loan you. I mean, it's kind of like wiring money on Craigslist or something. Once in a while you might actually find a private lender that lives out of town that is willing to do it, but most of the time it's a crapshoot. So find someone in your area who you can actually shake hands with and talk to and confirm that they have the money and confirm that they have people working for them. You get somebody out of state who says, yeah, we'll send in an appraiser, and they don't know anything about your state. So call those investors. Some of them might be willing to share. Maybe you say, hey, I'll pay you $5,000 if you'll give me the name of your private lender. And I actually have offered money to someone to get them to get the name. I never ended up doing it. I don't even know. Maybe I should have checked if that was even legal, but I was like, come on, let me buy you dinner. Let me give you a little something for the name of this guy. And he's like, no, not going to do it. So most people probably wouldn't, but if I were to try to find one right now, that's how I would do it. This might be a stretch, but maybe going to some of those, some of the brokers that have a lot of REOs, because maybe they've seen, maybe they know people who can get it financed, but it is really tricky. I'm not gonna lie, this is the hard part. Once you find this guy, you can do a lot of deals. You can, and we're gonna talk about other ways to find great deals, but this is really the key. Find Joe Millionaire. If it's dad, if it's somebody close to you that you can talk to who would give you the money, just be sure. Get a really good realtor. I mean, honestly, it's really important. And I'm not just saying that because I am one. I'm saying it's really important to have a good realtor because they can review your deals. And if you're buying, you're not paying them anything to do that. If you're the one purchasing, you're not paying the realtor unless there's a compensation agreement or something because the property isn't listed. But get somebody to look over your deal, somebody who's had experience. If you can find a mentor, maybe tell them that you'll pay them X amount per hour to be your mentor who has actually gone through it. That's going to be the way to go. And maybe they'll share that person with you. I happen to get really lucky, and I had a really good investor client who has kind of become my friend. And he was willing to give up his Joe Millionaire for me. So now it's helped me to get into it. And I also gave him a great deal. I gave him an assignment in it, and I think he was really thankful about that. I didn't even charge him for it. And an assignment sounds like, here, you have to buy this house, and it's not. I'll do another video soon that talks about assignments, how to do them, how to negotiate, how to meet people in the business. Just for the record, I'm not really gaining anything from this. I just know what it was like to be here in your place. Maybe I'll monetize it. Maybe I'll put ads on it or something and get a little bit of, you know what, $1 for every 50 shares or something, but maybe get a little kickback. But I had to spend a lot of time, money, resources. It was exhausting, just trying to get to know what I know. And now I've worked for myself, I've worked for other investors, and I've learned a lot the hard way. So I'm trying to help you out. And by the way, I would say feel free to comment, ask questions, but to be honest, I don't feel like weeding through some of that stuff. There are so many people I picture sitting on their couch watching their soap opera until it's over and then being like, I'm going to start drama in somebody else's life, so let's find somebody on YouTube. And I see them pop up in my phone. I see the first, 5 words that say, I hope you burn in, and I'm like, oh yeah, I don't know if I'll just skip that. I'm really thick-skinned, so it doesn't bother me, by the way, if you leave nasty comments, even if I ever decide to read them. But you'll probably actually have more questions watching the video, but most of it will cover in different videos, which I am committed to doing now. I decided to go ahead and do it for you, whoever you are. So I think that's just about it. Just to review, bank, when to use a bank, pretty much never. Mortgage lender, these guys can be really good if you're going to hold the property. Cash, just quickly buy it with cash, turn around and refinance it. Again, check with an attorney on some of this stuff, check with your state laws. I'm just trying to help you out, don't sue me. Owner carry, this is kind of the seller holding the property and giving you the loan on it. And then you've got your private person, who could be anybody, but if you're going to do a flip deal, you want to use somebody who does this so they can look at your proposal, review it, and turn around and choose whether or not to do it. I've actually had some of these guys that have said, we don't even want any money down. Just, you've got a great deal, So that's when you know that you're doing them. And then, so these are the guys that kind of puff up your ego a little bit because you're like, hey, I must be doing a good job. This guy's going to give you the loan. So, anyway, hope it's clear, and I will be back with more videos later. Take care, everybody.